here we are back again. A very long ride. We started this morning very, very early, so we are almost not at the end of our marathon. Almost. We started in Australia and then Asia, Mediterranean, Africa, and then Europe. In a bit, we're going to start our deep dive around the Americas. And now we are landing in Washington, D.C. I'm very glad today to be together with our most important partner, that is the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, and in particular, the Learning Academy of FAO. And now I would love to invite with me in this virtual stage a very important guest from the United States, that is Dr. Ture Keien, Executive Director of Policy and Global Affairs Division at the U.S. National Academy of Science. I'm so sorry, we are live since 20 hours, so we're starting to miss some words around, some
things, yes,
and so on. But anyway, it's been a very incredible word lesson.
That's wonderful. And Claudia, thank you so much. And it's such a pleasure to be here, especially in a time when none of us are able to actually travel. I feel like I'm going around the world now, which is a good feeling to sort of feel back connected. So anyway, it's a great pleasure to be here. And it's as you mentioned, Claudia, I am Vaughn Tarikian. I serve as the Executive Director for the Policy and Global Affairs at the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. And we have really, in hearing about all this discussion around food and agriculture and the importance to so many different topics, particularly celebrating this Earth Day, which, as a number of your guests have pointed out, was something that was started in the United States 51 years ago as a response to a lot of the concerns that were coming out of environmental degradation from massive advances. It's a great honor to be here, and it's also a great honor to be here because I know that, there's another summit going on right now in Washington, D.C., or around the world, actually, really, which our leadership around the world are committing to real climate action. And so we're seeing in so many ways this day is not only a day around Earth Day, but really it's a day where we're bringing and seeing some of the great forces of political, scientific, non-governmental research activities coming together to try to solve some of the great societal challenges around the environment and climate change. In fact, my organization next week will be hosting something that will be very similar. It'll be a Nobel Summit that will be taking place in Washington, D.C. and around the world virtually with Nobelists from around the world in partnership with our colleagues from the Nobel Foundation and from the Potsdam Institute of Climate. And it will be on this issue of our future and our Earth and our future, and so many of the topics around climate change, equity, biodiversity, and technology will be there. This topic of food and agriculture is so central to what my organization thinks about, in no small part because my organization has a direct connection to the world of food research and agricultural research in the United States. That is that we were discovered and founded by Abraham Lincoln when he was president. So the National Academy of Sciences was created by Abraham Lincoln as a way to advise government on issues of science and engineering and medicine. What is telling is Abraham Lincoln was also a very committed person to seeing increased amounts of investment and research into food and agricultural systems. He signed the major act on top of many other things that created the land-grant universities in the United States. Those land-grant universities have been the hub and, in fact, the engine for so much research that's taken place in the food and agricultural space. I mean, you can almost think of any of the major sort of research areas that have come out in food and agriculture in the United States, and you can find a connection to those land-grant universities. But from another standpoint, we've had a very long history of working with other academies around the world to think about issues around food and food systems. In fact, we work with our Inter-Academy Partnership colleagues. The Inter-Academy Partnership is actually based out of Trieste, Italy, and Washington, D.C. And they had a report with 130 national academies talking about a wake-up call on the issues around food and food systems and how they are actually right now failing humanity and speeding up many climate changes. What we found in those conversations was actually this august group of scientists around the world, really started to think about major changes that we need to be made, including things like climate smart food systems that urges shifts to climate smart systems. At the same time, limiting agricultural's greenhouse gas emissions alone will not be sufficient to address food systems' impact on climate change. We actually have to think to a smarter climate change smart food system. We need to develop incentives for consumers to change diets. That was another thing that this august panel of 130 academies of sciences came up with. Changing ways that we think about diets, thinking about ways we think about innovative food. And policymakers have a role in this, needing to help consumers understand and weigh the environmental implications of food choices. But also, as we've seen through so much of the work in the Sustainable Development Goals, doing things that we should thinking about reducing food waste. And it needs to be prioritized. Food waste is a major contributor not only to lost food, but also significant land degradation and climate change. And like I said, innovative foods. I mean, we're seeing so much in this space of food and agricultural development, thinking about what do we need to know around how we're thinking changing dietary consumption could bring co-benefits to health and climate, such as maybe reducing meat consumption in some regions and increasing innovative foods and diets. These are things like we've seen already, things like, more exotic mushroom mixes, other ways of thinking about insect-based foods. And what we need really is a better connectivity between the social sciences and the natural sciences. We need to look at the fact that there's so much innovation, but this will require stronger connections between different disciplines of science so that we can think about how we connect cutting edge technologies, science education, training, and as our previous panel talked about, communications. And that life sciences and basic research have to cooperate much more closely with the social sciences and the policy research community on food in order to make something go forward. And finally, we can't deal with the food system solely by looking at one country or one region. The food system is so wholly integrated now. The use of natural resources is so wholly integrated. I mean, we think about things like the movement of soy around the world. Well, the movement of soy is not just the movement of soy, it's the movement of water, which is used to grow that soy. So we have to think about all of these complexities, and that requires really a robust discussion with so many parts of the earth system, the ecosystem, to understand how do we move forward. So I know that my organization, like I said, has done a lot of work with not only in the United States but around the world in thinking about food systems, because really, again, when you look at things like the SDGs, when you look at things like climate change, when you look at things like biodiversity, only by bringing the science and technology with the international community, with the food producers and the food consumers and the places where food is purchased and made, only by bringing that ecosystem together are we going to really be able to make real progress in something that is critical to human survival, which is food for Earth and food for people. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Because in a day like this one, when actually we really started hearing voices of experts, scientists, indigenous communities, young innovators, startuppers, ministers, so voices really from the different layer of the society in different parts of the world, from Australia to South Korea, Japan, China, Indonesia, everywhere. Moving forward together, we are really understanding that this is something that cannot be achieved just by one country. Of course, when we are talking about countries of your size, if we're talking about US, you can play a crucial role. But then we need to move forward all together. And what you have been highlighting is the complexity of food and how much everything is interconnected. So I really thank you so much, because I think that bringing the voice of US, and today for us is a very important day also because we are for the first time official partner of what is happening in DC, because we are, and we've been in the platform of Earth Day since this morning very early, and then we switch with your super important summit. I think it has been really a great opportunity for all of us to highlight how much our daily choices, and each time we gather around the table, we have to remember and celebrate our history, celebrating the presence, because anyway, food is culture, is sociality, is experience, is care, but also every bite is connecting us with the future. Every choice can have an impact on the health of the planet, on the resources we are using. So really, really, really thank you so much for supporting our marathon. And we move forward. We have still to go on. We still have to run around the world with carrying the flame, carrying the flame. Thank you so much. And thank you so much also to the Italian Embassy in Washington, D.C. for connecting us with great mind and incredible scientists that are doing an outstanding work, really, to show us which are the impact we are making, because we need all to be aware about the impact we are daily making with our food production and the food system that need to be rebooted and fixed.